This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, that was the recording starting. Perfect. So my name is Ute, and I am the head of payment at Elomeo, and also within the European Women Payments Network for the past 3 years, and also working as a co-country ambassador within the network. And so I will be the co-moderator of this event. And at this point, I would like to give the word to my other co-moderator and kindly the co-organizer this event, to Maaike Hornung from Visa.
Thank you, Esther, and everyone from my side too. My name is Maaike Hornung. I work in Visa's government engagement team, which means I'm responsible for the relationship with government, central banks, and supervisory authorities. And I'm also part of Visa's Women in Business initiative, which is a global initiative that aims to connect and support women inside and outside of Visa, and to co-sponsor events like this one today. So we really want to be today with you and to drive the topic of gender diversity and gender equality. And so if you're not working in payments yet, maybe after this panel you'll be interested. And yeah, feel free to reach out to any of us if you have after the event. Finally, I must say this is the first externally facing event that we are doing as Visa, so I'm thrilled to see so many people have dialed in already. And I'd like to kick off this event by introducing our speakers and by first welcoming Ute Koenig-Stemmler from Visa. Ute has been with many years and as such has also held many roles. Today she is here as head of business development for the Central European region, and business development is a relatively new function within Visa that she has set up 3 years ago and perfectly fits into today's topic. She's also part of Visa's Women in Business initiative and Visa's Global Executive Leadership Program for Women, so that she can hopefully give us some leadership tips today. And on top of that, I would like to share that she's also my boss and my personal role model, so that I know for sure that she'll have some interesting views to share with us today. Then I'm pleased to introduce Evelien Witlox, another very familiar face in the payments industry, particularly in the Netherlands, and as I heard, a close friend and partner of both EWPN and Visa. Evelien is Global Director of Payments and Cards at ING and board member of the European Payment Council. Evelien has a very impressive background in payments, acquiring, and retail and wholesale banking. I think from open banking to PSD2 to instant payments, she is responsible for so many topics that I think it's absolutely fantastic that she takes the time to talk to us today. And last but not least, I warmly welcome Willem-Joost Walch. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Willem has been with Picnic for almost 4 years and is currently heading the business development at Picnic Technologies. For those of you who don't know Picnic, Picnic is a fully digital and app-only supermarket that is experiencing explosive growth since its inception in 2015. Picnic is really disrupting the supermarket delivery industry in the Netherlands and is also expanding into Germany with a very innovative and personalized customer experience. Picnic is also offering its very own payment method and uses electric cars to deliver the groceries to people's homes. So we're very excited to hear your views on how the payment industry is changing and payment behavior that we're going to discuss today. And having said that, I'll hand over back to Isel for the first question.
Thank you very much, Maaike. That's great. So I will be pushing the first question already in the Slido. So if you have a mobile device with you, if you dialed in with a mobile device, now it's the time to go online. There we go. So the first question is, in the past 10 months, the circumstances, our lives changed enormously. And I do expect a pretty much obvious answer to that question, but let's see who is joining us today from a home office. Oh, counting, lots of people, looks like. So, great. While everybody is everybody is voting there, I would like to address an icebreaker question to the round, to our panel of the discussion today. And as I mentioned, so we are now in the 10th month, if not the 11th, into this pandemic. And so to everybody in the panel, so Evelien, Ute, and Willem, looking back and knowing what we know today, so all this extensive growth of this crisis and everything what came with that. So knowing what you know today, looking back to March 2020, what would you have done differently if you knew it was going to become such a crisis? And feel free to answer that question from any kind of perspective. Could be business, could be personal. So the word is yours.
So good morning, everyone. First of all, and thank you for the kind introduction. So this is a great question to kick off. Yes, what if? I think I would have made sure to travel to a sunny place. It's very cloudy and cold outside. Just to go walking. I always wanted to live and work at the beach, but jokes aside. So if you know what is ahead of you, you can plan. But if you don't know, you have to adapt. That's very easy. And a large part of our business relies on travel and entertainment, and it got hit very, very hard. If I would have done that, I think we would have worked with our partners to more diversify their services and get more resilient.
Right. Thanks, Ute. I'm totally on your side with the sunny place. I would make sure to have a great extensive holiday if I knew that was coming. So, and William and Evelien, do you have an idea on that? What we have done differently?
Maybe let me go first. I can't see William, so I'm sorry if I interrupt you. Well, if I look on a personal level, I think I would have invested earlier in having a really good setup at home. So having a good chair, having a good table, so the very practical things. It took me a while before I really accepted that it would be for a longer period. And on a business side, I think, and we did that, I think, from the start, but I think all of us underestimated the impact of having to work and to teach your children at home. Fortunately, my children are big enough to be quite independent in that. But I've really seen colleagues being yeah, we were really stressed in the first period, and we are now in a second very severe lockdown in the Netherlands. And we have made different agreements with the people to really not try to do everything at 100%, because that's completely impossible. So those are, well, one of the few learnings I have done.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. I think one of the bigger learnings I had was being a bit more mindful of what we take for granted, right? Before the pandemic, you just do everything on a more or less autopilot. I think one of the great things of the pandemic is that we're faced a bit with this, well, the unbounded world we had before the pandemic. So I think I would like to relive those times, those first 5, 6, 7 years before, with the mindfulness that we have now. But that's a bit difficult to do. So let's try to keep that mindfulness also post-COVID times. So I think that will help appreciate a lot of stuff that you don't appreciate it then. And on a personal level, I would probably invest a bit more in my board game skills, because I have been losing a lot last couple of months. So, but that's a bit too late now to learn. So, no, next wave maybe.
If there is one thing, Willem, that I learned through this crisis and pandemic, there is never too late. It looks like taking much longer than expected or anticipated at the beginning. So you have time to become.
Yes, I'm getting better, but the rest of the world is also getting better. So it's difficult.
True. Great. So after having this really nice warming up question round, thank you very much to everybody in the panel. So just one more when we look at the questionnaire, so we have like about 30 people answering, and it's 93% dialing from home office. I guess we do have an indirect answer from the audience who is joining us today. This would have totally a different survey if we were asking the same question a year ago, right? So the circumstances are changed. Lots of things changed in our lives within the past year. And so we would like to discuss this from also a payment habits perspective and also the business models perspective and leadership. So we have a really nice rounds of questions coming up. And at this point, I'm giving the word to Maike to moderate the next round of this webinar. There you go, Maike.
Yes, let's start into the debate. As Isel said, the first topic we're interested in, what you think about payment habits have changed. We know it's not a surprise anymore that COVID-19 has changed lots of our behavior. We pay more contactless, we pay more digital. Even my grandmother shops online at Amazon now. But before looking how this affects the businesses, I would like to know, Ute, from you, what surprised you the most about the way the Germans are paying today versus maybe 10 years ago? Yeah, 10 months ago, apologies.
Yeah, you referred to it already, Mike. Your grandma is using Amazon, for example. So what surprised me most was how quickly consumer behavior shifts. So we can manage in our system 500 million transactions. We see behaviors, we see about transactions. This transaction was done in the year 2000. And just think how long it took to convince people now of contactless payments. But all of a sudden, Corona came along and pushed cashless payments enormously. So we saw in June last year, more than 75% of Visa payments in Europe are contactless. Amazing. And there was a survey published by the German Central Bank last week, and they stated that cash payments went down from 74 to 60% now. And in Germany, the share of Visa contactless has gone up by a third. But the really important question is, will that kind of behavior, will it stick? And I think this is something we really have to look into on a steadily basis now. But we see it with a great offer. We are having more than 800 mobile payment services in Europe at the moment. Last year, I think on Visa technology, we introduced in 2020 65 new mobile payment services, and all of those are delivering a great user experience. And in the central bank survey that I was referring to earlier on, it is said that not the hygienic factors are driving this new behavior. It's about convenience and it's about speed. So there's a perceived value with consumers, and therefore I hope that this change of behavior will stay.
Thank you, Ute. Evelien, what do you think?
Yeah, well, we are active in multiple countries, but one of our home countries is, of course, the Netherlands, where we see a similar trend. I have to say that the starting situation was slightly different than in Germany. So in the Netherlands, there is already for a long time quite a big adoption on electronic payments. But even in that case, we saw a drop, for example, from cash of between 40 and 50% less cash withdrawals on a weekly basis. And we saw the electronic payments, especially the online ones, really flourishing. Ideal is, of course, a big payment method in the Netherlands, having an increase between 30 and 40%, a little bit depending on the week that you take. In store, we saw indeed, like Ute already said, a switch to contactless to 85% roughly of the number of transactions. So there we really made a big jump. And expectation is that things will go back, well, not to normal, but so we will see cash recovering a bit. We'll see hopefully more transactions in store and less online, which will be an indication that we can go outside again. And I think a lot of people are really dying to be able to do some fun shopping. But having said that, we really think that a large part will stay as it is. So this will be a further push for cash and a further incentive for the electronic payments, both in store as online.
Many thanks. Maybe we can post this question to the audience and ask them how they have changed their behavior.
Which is already done, and there are a couple of people already voting nicely, and I will be sharing the screen again for those of you who signed in later or missed the poll information. So this is the question that we address to you now. How have your payment habits changed with pandemic? And now the word is yours, audience.
Thank you. So I can already lots of people prefer paying with their mobile device. There's jumping around a little bit. I hardly have any cash on me anymore, and I prefer paying contactless. The winner seems to be definitely the mobile payment. Willem, looking at those results, does it surprise you?
Well, no, it doesn't really surprise me personally, and also my view on payments. But also for Picnic, it's good news, so to say, because we're an app-only company. We don't have stores or anything. So if the penetration of paying with your mobile device goes up, that's convenient for us, because it just makes the payment experience in the Picnic app more frictionless. Because cash is kind of no option for us, because that means we have to settle at the door. Our drivers, delivery drivers, need to have change with them, and that's a hassle. It takes time, and we're all about the efficiency there. And also, it's maybe a bit unsafe for them to have cash on them. So for us, this is perfectly good news, and it was already kind of the path we were heading. That's only paying in the app. So good news for us. Yeah.
Yeah. We see though on the survey that we have 0% in-app payments. So, and even though we see 20% hardly have cash on me anymore, it seems that quite a lot still have cash. And Evelien also stated it's probably not going to go completely away. Would you consider, as an supermarket, maybe to reintroduce cash as a payment method going forward?
No. And it has. We also have a kind of a different view on this. Overall, you see, especially online, the more payment methods you offer, the higher conversion is. That's true, obviously. But we're really striving here for convenience, but also for a recurring customer, because you do grocery shopping every week, right? Or every day, maybe some. So we're really looking for, and we're aiming for, a payment method, hopefully one or two, and that can differ per country or per customer, where you onboard, and that's your frictionless one click, as easy as it is to start shopping. So offering multiple ways of paying, especially at the door where they're settling and issues that takes time, and our trip planning is hurt by this, obviously. So it's not something we are looking into, and I don't think we will.
That was a clear answer, and I see mobile was the clear winner. Ute, from Visa. Yeah. Maybe you want to share your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I would love to say something to that one, because we spend much effort on getting a better picture around mobile payments. Last year, when we did a study together with Forza for the German market, And well, I mentioned already that 75% pay contactless in Germany now, but also 12% are paying with their mobiles meanwhile. So that's a great progress we made. I think what is really surprising that the motivation, 95% of the mobile payment users, they like to pay with their mobile because they get transparency on what they spend. So mobile has really become part of our lives, as Willem already mentioned. It's you know the discussion you are having when you're planning to go on holiday with your teenager children. Then the first question they ask is not where do we go, but is there wireless, and they're checking the speed of it. So really, it has become such a huge part of our lives. You can even have mobile detox weekends booked. Meanwhile, it's crazy. So I think that mobile payments and in-app payments, this is where it goes in the long run. And let me add a fun fact to that one, because a lot of crazy research is done in the field of mobile payments, and I just read one coming from OnePlus. This is a smartphone manufacturer, and they researched the average scrolling time on your mobile. And for Germany, this was 59 minutes a day. So 59 minutes a day, you're scrolling on your mobile. But what they also did, they looked into how many meters you're scrolling with your thumb in that time. And they came to the conclusion that the Germans scroll 173 meters a day on their mobile. This is the height of the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona. They did not took the Cologne Cathedral because it's too short, 60 meters too short for that one. But this is amazing. And the European average, by the way, is 183 meters. You scroll for the Netherlands. I also looked up this figure. It's 160 meters. So what I want to say really, mobile payment, this is what the future is about, and it's getting more and more popular.
Thank you, Ute. And I think this leads us nicely into the second part of this panel, because we wanted to talk a little bit about business models and how this behavior really impacts the way we, or the companies, products and services. And Isel, maybe you want to kick off the second part.
Thank you very much. Yes, that would be really great to discuss about shifting business models, or pandemic or similar crisis shifting the models, business models. And before addressing the specific question to the round, that would be great to hear again from the audience what they think, whether they think the pandemic boosts the change of business models. So you will have time throughout this session to vote there. And after you've done this, I will be asking you more questions about this anticipated change. So, and to the panel now. I would say let's not wait for the answers and dive in our discussion now. And we would think that the audience will agree with us that the pandemic or similar crises are boosting change in business models. Knowing that or expecting that, the consumer behavior changes and also the business models. William, especially for you, your company has been created 4 or 5 years ago. And if you knew back then, like only in 5 years, this much of a change was coming up, and you already set up your business in a non-physical and quite a fully digital and completely digital way, and if you predicted that, what would your ideas in terms of your business models? And besides that, do you see yourself like in your explosive growth due to Corona, that this change is something in your business model, and do you also see yourself as a winner of this crisis?
Well, first of all, we already how we are organized as a company are already quite digital. But you can split Picnic in that sense also in two. One is the tech side of it. That's very much organized as a software company. But obviously, we also have a full supply chain. I mean, we need to deliver milk and steaks and groceries in general. So the approach for both is a bit different. Letting software developers work only digital is quite easy. Getting a supply chain digital is impossible. So we had to also have a mind shift there on how to organize both sides of it. And the extreme growth we experienced in COVID times is, well, it's only making our problems bigger, because already before COVID, we had such massive growth that we could not handle it in general. So we invented something we call the wait list. So that people that are already signed up, but we are not able to deliver yet. And that was already running into hundreds and thousands in the Netherlands on itself before COVID times. So you can imagine how big those numbers are now. So the issue of scaling quick enough that we can keep up with demand was already there, and it just got worse with COVID. So in that sense, the business didn't have a unique problem there. It was already there, and it's just validated that we're on the right path here. It just traveled time 5 years, right? So everyone who signed up now would probably have done so in the next coming years. But I mean, obviously, we are at Picnic is one of the lucky companies that has where COVID helped the penetration instead of kicked out stuff. So our main challenge actually was, how do we get this COVID-free and safe supply chain, and also from the delivery side and throughout the whole supply chain, so in warehousing, with the suppliers. So it was more our challenge, how do we set this up in days actually, to make sure that we can deliver COVID safe groceries to every front door. So that was our challenge, and not per se the demand.
Yeah, exactly. It's so great to hear the logistical challenges, and so basically the physical challenges of this crisis within the even within the growth due to the crisis. It would be really interesting to address the same question, of course, with a totally different perspective, to Evelien, and then afterwards to Ute, as representatives of payment industry. Basically, how do you see and regard this question, especially from the payer and then payee, so merchant perspective of within the payments industry?
Yeah, I think we have, from a bank perspective, a couple of views. So first, what we saw from a payment perspective is that indeed there was a huge demand to us to facilitate the contactless payments in the shop, and to ensure that the say e-commerce payment methods are also there. So in the first weeks, for example, we in a couple of days agreed to higher the limit that you can pay contactless, for example, in the shop. And so that you could do that contactless and not have to touch base. So those were like the first things that needed to be resolved. What we also saw is that, and then those two the points of Willem also on the on-door delivery also had a bigger demand on not only Ideal, but also we had some sort of pilots with request to pay, so that you come to the door and then you do a payment there for exactly the amount that you need to pay. And that went through the roof, of course, because it was rolled out with only for, I don't know, 20 participants, but we have really had to scale that up very quickly. So those were the short-term things. And then from a banking perspective, of course, we also needed to take care of all the companies that have a very different financing demand than they had before. And then I think we saw, and that is more in the also business to business, is that also our clients work more and more from home. So digitalization, which is already one of the key features for ING, for both for business to consumer, but also for business to business, we gave that a big push to allow our customers, our merchants, our corporates also to do their payments from home in a safe and secure way. So I think those are the main things that we did, and especially the digitization, but also indeed further development of features and products to support the new way of doing business is an ongoing journey we're on, and we keep on delivering new features to the market. Also that.
Before giving the word to Ute, and thank you very much, Evelien, on that, I would like to just show everybody what the audience voted on this question. The first question was whether they think the change is boosted. That was a clear yes. And now we're seeing where the audience think the change was happening or still happening within this crisis. So we can follow that changes throughout the session. And at that level, I would like to change the question for Ute a little bit, and would be really interested to hear. So I think it's kind of obvious that the world itself, or the business world, is affected enormously by this pandemic one way or another. And also it's clear there will be survivors out of crisis. So this is also what the history tells us, right? And the biggest question is, who will survive and who will be left in the dust after this crisis? And more like a direct question towards Visa. Ute, do you think among Visa is one of the hidden winners of this crisis?
Yes, of course, payments markets have strongly been affected by the crisis, but so sectors, for example, like the travel industries, they are suffering, and but there are other sectors like the e-com space, and we heard it from Willem, they have skyrocketed. Yeah, so yeah. The payments markets have been affected in different ways, but the payment systems, they are functioning. We are a payment system, we are functioning. And as well, we are part of the essential services. It has to work. And the Visa Net operates with, and I have to get it right, the Visa Net operates with 99.9995% reliability. And I think this is why we are hidden champion, because our network is so stable. But at the end of the day, we are only as strong as our partners are, and therefore we do all to support them and to respond to the changing consumer needs. And what Evelien mentioned earlier on raising the contactless limit, of course, we did introduce the framework for having the possibility to raise the contactless limits. That's what we did. And of course, we did support the issuing banks with regards to digitizing their products, etc. But and this was really our challenge, to provide fast and secure access to our payment technology over the last months, as we did always anyway. But we had a very strong focus, and also to the SME space, to enabling SMEs to digitize, and also to introduce non-cash solutions. And this was also a point that Evelien made. Willem, you're an in-app service, so therefore it's not touching your business, yeah. But most of the SMEs who are stores, they did rely on cash. So and they had no chance to participate in the e-commerce space or even in this contactless growth. So this is why we set up a huge initiative that was called Where You Shop Matters. This is the initiative name, and it has several parts in it. So the first part was to help these SMEs who relied on cash to build online presence, enabling them to sell online and also to accept digital payments there. So this was a huge piece of this Where You Shop Matters initiative. And on top of that, of course, we try to stimulate usage in these shops with having dedicated promotion activities like the nebenan.de, where we doubled vouchers for neighborhood stores, etc. So the SME space was a big focus for us and still is.
Right. Perfect. It was really great to hear Visa's perspective on that. And I think what would be really fair to ask also to another, let's call it winner from our perspective on this crisis, to Evelien, representing ING. How do you regard this crisis and emerging out this crisis?
Yeah, I think for ING as a bank, that's a big story. Yeah, so there is more the financial part and the interest part that is also affecting us and makes it also well, a challenging time for us, where we do our utmost to support the companies that are our clients and to secure their future. On a payments level and also in general, I think we are very much on the same tour as was also coming out of the questionnaire. So further speeding up the digitization. We are already a digital bank, so we have been a front runner on that for a long time already, and we are really benefiting from that. For example, within 2 days everybody could work from home. I think we have roughly 85% of the people working from home, keeping the system stable, introducing new features. You can only do that when you have really digitized your services. But there we even want to step up, or we are stepping up. And as I explained before, that's of course in the consumer space, but also very much in the business-to-business space, which is an area which I think was on our radar for all of us, if I say us, but on the market, for a market where we would think that digital would become much more important, doing business online, also there, like with the business to consumer. And you see that getting an enormous push as well through this crisis. So we're really actively working on that. Yeah, I think that's it.
All right. Okay, I think it's now. Thank you very much to all of you who answered that question. That was really really interesting to hear your perspectives on that as well. And I think it's now time to switch to the next round and the last round of this webinar today, which is the discussion about leadership practices due to and within the crisis. Since we are having a little bit shortage with the time, I'm just seamlessly pushing the last round of questions for the audience in the background, and feel free to answer that. And also after this last round of questions, the audience, you will have the chance to address your questions to the panel. So make sure switching the tab in Slido for Q&A. And if you have questions, put it there. We will be addressing that for you to the panel. And at this point, I give the word to Mike again.
Thanks, Isel. And now my favorite part of the session starts, the leadership questions. I was very surprised the last Slido revealed that only 5% are investing into human resources, even though I think the people stood at the heart of the crisis. And I'd be very curious to hear, starting with you, Ute, do you think leadership norms and values have changed over the pandemic, and have you changed anything in that with your team and your leadership style?
Yeah, sure, it has changed, of course, and you had to change because it was a completely different setting, a completely different way of working. And it's become a habit, so it's no longer just for another 2 weeks. Yeah, so we don't know how long it will take. I myself, I'm in the home office for for 41 weeks now, because at Visa we quickly found out, as you know, Heike, that the majority of our 20,000 employees are able to work from home, and this is why we shut down the offices. And of course, we are reevaluating back to office plans, etc. But I myself, and this makes it easier for me, to be honest, to accept all these new working conditions. I was very impressed by a statement from our CEO, Al-Khali. He made 1 year ago, in the first lockdown. He said, it simply seems wrong for Visa employees to be crowding transit system and roads when we have the flexibility to both continue full business continuity while working from home. And I think this really makes very clear the responsibility we have. So at Visa, we understand and treat each other as a family. We spend a lot of time at work, and we want to keep the family safe here. And I personally, I want to keep my team safe, and I want to keep them motivated this time. So I want to have them forward thinking. I want to have them as passionate as in the pre-COVID time, and I want them to like their jobs. And of course, this is challenging from time to time. So I'm doing a lot of team activities. It's important to listen. Yeah, so listening is something that perhaps we had to learn again. Yeah, and we have to have quality times via phone. We have to be empathetic. We have to use coffee chat for socializing. So we need to learn kind of virtual socializing, not to lose track with your team. I always was very, very transparent with my team on where we go together. But I also had to give the direction to them, and it is very, very important not to lose anyone in this time. So you do not have to forget the silent ones in your team. It's very, very important to integrate everybody in this journey we are on at the moment. And I think the most important thing, but this is nothing we had to change or to learn over the time, is we have to laugh from time to time and be optimistic.
Thank you, Ute. And I'm very curious to hear, Willem, would you say that that's the same for a small organization like Picnic, or do you think it's been different because you have experienced so much growth, hiring so many people? Have you kept track of the people in a scaling organization like Picnic?
No, I totally agree with what Ute said. I think we already had the benefit of being, for the most part, a remote working company, as we only exist 5 years, so it was already in our DNA and way of working. But this really speeded it up, that it's a true normal. I think what's also, and it might be easier for a smaller company like Picnic than for the bigger companies like Visa and ING, is that when the pandemic kicked in, it's also a type of leadership to really take the steer wheel, because the world changed, right? And normally at Picnic we have this, everyone has this responsibility, and there is this freedom of work at home, but also to organize your own agenda. So that new style of working was already there. But when the world changed, when the first wave kicked in, I think our leadership, or founders, sort of say, really understood in a couple of hours, this is big and we need to step in quickly to make sure everyone is on the same path again. And that also has to do with shifting priorities. And a simple practical example here is that we need to build a priority lane for, let's say, people working in vital jobs, let's say in hospitals, so that they can order still, while for the rest of the people, we kind of close down the shop, because those working in a hospital cannot be on their phone every now and then and just start doing grocery shopping, right? So we needed all these kind of new priorities over the big roadmap we already had, and shifting it around. And that took, I think, some proper leadership. And that's I think the one thing when the world changes like this, is that then the true leaders need to step in and take control. And at least at Picnic we experience it that way.
Thank you, Willem, and that leads me nicely to Evelien. The true leaders need to step in. How have you stepped in, Evelien? Is there something that you've done in particular, some activity or some measure that you could highlight for others to maybe copy or think about that worked really well, or not at all?
Yeah, I think so. ING did the same as Ute explained. So we also said everybody works from home. Only a few people in the offices that need to be there, but the rest, everybody works from home from day one. I think the most important thing that we have done and that we continue to do is to really step up communication. When you are in an office, a lot of the communication goes, just happens because you're in the same room, you meet each other, those are the things. And now when you're all at home, this is you need to organize, and you really need to step up. And indeed, you need to. I think the most simple thing was to continue with the work thing. We had less than with Willem that we really had to reshift priorities, but we more needed to make sure that we stick on the road. We had like deliveries for regulatory deadlines that we needed to meet, but there we were working in an agile way, and that was relatively easy to transport to home. But what we really had to step up on is in how indeed do you have fun. It's not just happening because you bump into each other. You need to make room and time or allow for it. How do you stay connected on a group level? So for example, I had a quarterly meeting for my full team, and then maybe 20-25% showed up. We moved to digital, and then I think 80% logged in. So you see also the need for communication is much higher. So we increased the number of communication moments. So I think communication in every sense and in every level is one of our top priorities. We also need to reevaluate. So the things that worked like in the first 2 months not necessarily still work now. Because we're in a different mindset, we're in a different time. When you think you do this for 2 months and you just start learning, then it's a different environment than when it's 10 months and it starts off to land, at least in my head, that it might take even, I don't know, 3/4 of a year or longer before we anyway going back to the office. So you need to readjust the things you do, the way you connect to your people, to this environment, and it's a sort of nobody knows. So it's just learning on the job, I would say.
Yeah, and Evelien, perhaps I can add to that one something what also surprised me in a very positive way. It's not only the management thinking, that we have to communicate and that we have to stay in contact, etc. What I experienced is that the team is asking for that, so they themselves also drive it. They drive this kind of communication and organize afterworks, etc. And I think this is a very, very nice experience for a team that it comes from both sides.
Agree.
Absolutely. I think we do have a few minutes left for questions from the audience before we close it off. I can't believe how quickly the time is running. Isel, you looked in the background for questions from the audience.
Yeah, true. We have one question right now in the Slido, which I find quite interesting, addressed to all panelists. There's a question from Visa. Did you develop new patterns during the last months working from home? I guess we discussed this topic already, but what I found really interesting in this question is the new patterns, because I believe the way that we used to work, even our regulatories, right, which is right now quite a difficulty for the politicians as well all around the world to find some regulations for how to work from home office, mobile working, etc. So for all of you, maybe just in a quick bit, do you have new patterns now for your employees working from home?
And maybe something from here first. I think what we see compared to the first is that people really understand if they want to keep going for the longer time, they really need to take care of themselves. So you see teams where they, for example, say, okay, let's not plan meetings between 12 and 1 or between 12 and 2. So you see that people really plan to take care of staying healthy and well balanced more than at the beginning. So that is really a new pattern. And people more actively really plan for just connecting, understanding that it just happens just out of the blue. So I think in the last 2 months, those are the most important patterns that I see happening in our teams.
Yeah, exactly.
I would fully support this one because I think in the beginning a lot of people ended up in the hamster wheel, and now we have created much more space in between. For example, having blocked lunch hours and respect kind of strategic hours, etc. And so it has changed over the last weeks, hopefully massively, and we really have a close eye on that one. That, as I said, people do not end up in a hamster wheel, so that they look more for themselves, for their health, as Evelien mentioned already.
Perfect. Now, I would say, due to the time, the last question to the round, which I find also very interesting, address here. Let's discuss and root back to the discussion before. And what is your view? What are your views on how emergence, how solutions like, William, maybe it's a question for you, how businesses like yours are dealing with the digital transformation? There's kind of a forced digital transformation happening right now all around the world. And how do you see that emergence dealing with that?
Well, we were already quite well developed in this transition, so I don't think we have an extra focus here. But what we really learned in this last, let's say, year or so, is that you really need to build flexible teams and flexible individuals. So hooking into how leadership and healthy teams and healthy individuals, that really sets you up to deal with these kind of uncertain times. And I think that's also the only way to making, let's say, robust technology solutions, so that you can deal digitally also with all these changing environments all the time. So just planning on having one feature that solves one issue might not be good enough. You need to think wider than this, because the input and the world changes so fast that your solution should be more robust. So I think digital transformation is one, but making yourself digitally robust is a second thing. And I think that's what we still need to be focusing on a bit more.
Perfect. I think those were really, really great insights, also hearing from your perspective as one of the boosting businesses within this crisis. That was a perfect discussion and a great lineup, great participation from everybody. At that point, I would like to give for the closing the word to Maaike. And from my side, thank you to everybody.
Thank you. We have 1 minute left, so I would like to ask you for a very, very short statement, one sentence only. What is the lesson learned or the tip you want to share with the audience to take away from this session? Willem, Evelien, Ute, in this order, please.
Well, I think to be short and looking at time, I think building robust solutions. I think not aim for one situation with one solution. Just dive in more deep and think how you can make stuff more robust to be aware of changing situations all the time. So I think that's one. And stay safe, obviously. That's the second.
Thank you. Evelien?
Yeah, from my side, I think keep a focus on the team, making sure that they're in there for the long haul, not only surviving, but also thriving. That I think is my key concern and focus for this year.
And Ute?
And I want to end with a quote from Stuart Wilde. He's a British author, and he said, "In a time of crisis, we all have the potential to morph up to a new level, and we can do things we never thought possible." So I want us all to be more curious, be courageous in these times. I want us to listen, and I want us to laugh, and I want us all to go for a new level.
Thank you. I think this is a nice quote to end the session. I would like to thank you all for this great session, for the speakers taking the time, for all the participants. It was a great audience, and wish you all a nice rest of the day. And please connect and reach out to everyone. Many thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Thank
Bye.
you.